So we were talking about the Northern District court case where a gun store out of Naperville sued Naperville, but also sued the state of Illinois and lost that case in the circuit courts that is now at the 7th Circuit Court of Appeals, where the 7th Circuit Court of Appeals yesterday, if you take a look at the track here of the docket for the appeals court, you can see how it plays out. And yesterday they did have the motion for injunction pending appeal and the order that was issued. And it's real short. It's 2 pages. Kind of gives you, the case that it is and what all the different things have happened before the 7th Circuit Court of Appeals. And then you get that, the plaintiff's motion to have a preliminary injunction pending appeal. And that was denied. So that's what's happening in the 7th Circuit Court of Appeals. That's federal. All right, so that's the federal stuff. Those are the federal cases. 7th Circuit Court of Appeals is over the Northern District of Illinois. It's also over the Southern District of Illinois federal court. Now, this is the trajectory to go to the U.S. Supreme Court eventually. But when you move your focus from federal court to state court, that's where you get some other happenings yesterday. So we all know about the cases that have been filed in state courts. If not, let me refresh you. All right, so some of the first cases that were filed were in state court. Actually, the first case that was filed, just to confuse you, because why not? It gets very Kafka-esque. The first case was actually out of Crawford County, filed by Thomas Magg, and that was transferred from state court to federal court, and that's one of the ones that's in the Southern District federal court. But then you had Thomas DeVore file multiple lawsuits, 2 in Effingham County, 1 in White County. He's got temporary restraining orders for thousands of plaintiffs in those cases that are protected from this law, the state's gun and magazine ban being enforced on them. It includes individuals. It also includes gun stores. They can, with this temporary restraining order in place, transact firearms between themselves. All right. So he's got thousands of temporary restraining orders against the state from enforcing the law on his plaintiffs. 2 in Effingham County, 1 in White County, 3 lawsuits, thousands of plaintiffs. But the first case was the accuracy firearms case from attorney Thomas DeVore. When he got that temporary restraining order in state court out of Effingham County, the state then appealed that case to the 5th Circuit Court of Appeals for Illinois. So Illinois' state courts also has an appellate's court before stuff gets up to the Illinois Supreme Court. So the accuracy firearms case cited giving a temporary restraining order to DeVore's clients. That was appealed to the 5th Circuit by the state. The 5th Circuit panel of judges, I think there were 3, and 2 of the 3 judges said that the case has a likelihood to succeed on its merits because it was challenging the law on the question of, does this violate equal protections by carving out law enforcement from being impacted by the law while regular citizens question whether or not they have Second Amendment rights. So that's the question at hand in the state courts. All right. So DeVore's case goes to the 5th Circuit. The 5th Circuit says that looks like this case does have a likelihood of succeeding on its merits. That set a precedent in the 5th Circuit, where you then had the Macon County case from State Representative Dan Caulkins filed, and a judge there, using the 5th Circuit Court of Appeals ruling, issued a final judgment in the Macon County case, essentially saying that, it's unconstitutional. So the state has to bypass the 5th Circuit because the 5th Circuit Court of Appeals for the state has already ruled, and this could advance based on the merits. So they went right to the Illinois Supreme Court. We've talked a lot about that case, in particular, the questions of judicial ethics that have been raised, even officially the Caulkins attorney, Jerry Stocks, filing a motion for 2 Supreme Court justices for the state of Illinois to recuse themselves for taking $1 million in campaign contributions before they were elected by a chief defendant in the case, Governor J.B. Pritzker. Now, those 2 justices denied that recusal motion. We've covered that as well. But you also now have a different order that was issued by the Illinois Supreme Court in DeVore's cases. So, again, 4 different cases, 3 from Tom DeVore, 1 from Dan Caulkins. The Dan Caulkins case is in the Illinois Supreme Court. They're going to hear it in mid-May. The entire panel, those 2 justices decided not to recuse themselves. That's the Caulkins case in the Supreme Court. the 3 cases that DeVore had, he wanted to consolidate all 4, but instead the Supreme Court said, no, we're going to take the Caulkins case. The 3 DeVore cases can stay together. So the state had an appeal of one of the DeVore cases, the accuracy firearms case, and they were appealing that. But to the Illinois Supreme Court, they filed a motion for abeyance to essentially say, no, we're going to hold DeVore's case, the proceedings on the appeals, we're going to hold the case in abeyance until they decide what happens with the Caulkins case. So they're essentially pausing the appeal to the Illinois Supreme Court per the request from the state. Now, from my understanding, DeVore's case, where he's looking for all kinds of discovery, that's still going on, and he anticipates a May 4th hearing to go through the discovery and get documents he says he needs as part of his process in building a case against the state's gun ban. That includes not just communications with legislative leaders, but it also includes communications from the Illinois Sheriff's Association and the Illinois Association of Chiefs of Police and what they were saying about all of this. So whether or not a judge grants DeVore's motion to have these entities turn over information as part of the litigation, that is still yet to be seen. But when it comes to the state's efforts to have DeVore's case in front of the Illinois Supreme Court on appeal, that's been put into abeyance. And you can track this yourself through the Supreme Court's website. And, they got it open where you can Google Illinois Supreme Court, check it out, and then hit high-profile cases. There you can see Supreme Court high-profile cases. And if you go down, you see the Caulkins case and the latest there, and you can also read the motions and the orders for recusal and the denial of recusals. But then you see the accuracy firearms case here in the Illinois Supreme Court, and you can track that as well. And the most recent there being the order regarding a motion by petitioners to hold the petition to leave to appeal in abeyance. So if you read that, it just simply says that, they grant that pending the outcome of whatever happens with the Caulkins case. So it's hereby ordered by the Illinois Supreme Court to hold petition for leave to appeal in abeyance, meaning they're going to hold the appeal in place. They're not going to do anything with it until the disposition of the Caulkins v. Pritzker case. So that order is to allow for that abeyance. So that's kind of the latest in the state level cases. Again, the most recent being that order that the Supreme Court issued in the accuracy firearms case, granting the state's motion to hold their appeal of DeVore's case to the Illinois Supreme Court until the Caulkins case is determined. So we'll see what happens there. But apparently you do have, the question of how the Illinois Supreme Court's outcome could impact the DeVore case moving forward. And what happens if you got to the circuit court and federal court in the Southern District saying that the law is unconstitutional? Well, I would probably block the law from being in place while all these appeals play out in both state and federal court. So we're all getting our junior law degree here. Just joking. You're not really. I'm not an attorney, and I don't purport to be one. But my gosh, there's a lot of twists and turns here and a lot of phrases and terms that we're all learning together. So appreciate you guys taking the time with us as we keep you updated on what you see as a threat to your Second Amendment and how the litigation's playing out. And again, the state level cases dealing with the question of this law not pertaining to law enforcement and others in the security sectors, while in the federal court, you've got the law being challenged on Second Amendment rights. So again, follow me, Bishop on Air, YouTube, Twitter, Facebook. Find me, connect with me, bishoponair@gmail.com is the email address. So I appreciate everybody tuning in and getting